There we go. Okay, team. So we are today talking about, oh, I've got to get my screen on correctly, actually, so you can all see me. There we go. Can everyone see me okay? Thumbs up or hand up if you can see me. Perfect. Great. Excellent. Alrighty. Perfect. Okay, good to see everybody online today. Excited to get started. And if at any point in time I get a bit excited, guys, sometimes I start talking quickly. So if I'm talking too quickly for your ears and my accent, please tell me to slow down or just remind me, or you can try and listen faster, whichever one works. Okay. So guys, let's do this. We're going to be talking about the 7 reasons why you're struggling to lose body fat today. Alrighty? So let me do a quick screen share here. All right, and you'll be able to see my very unfancy slideshow just to help keep me on track here. Actually, no, I'll tell you what, I'm going to get rid of the slideshow because it just, you can see my face instead. Alrighty, so guys, before we get into it, for those of you who don't know, I am Coach Jake. So I have a gym here in Australia where I'm sitting right now. And we also have our Pept India business, which we started a few years ago now. And many of you guys are a part of. So thank you for being joining our team. And we're going to be talking today about 7 reasons you're not losing fat. This is based on working with thousands of people over the last 13 years or so. And I'm going to be sharing with you some really simple things, but really important things. And our goal of this next, 50 to 60 minutes will be to have you leave with 2, 3, or 4 things that you can add into your life that's going to make a difference. And for some of you, it'll be about removing some things as well. Okay, so not always adding things. We want to be losing things. Okay, cool. Got a cool message from Shoaib. That's awesome. So Shoaib's lost 28 kilos in 11 weeks. Fantastic. But still want to lose some belly fat. I'm going to talk about that. Okay, that'll be reason number 2 will be most related to belly fat. So the first reason why people struggle to lose fat, guys, is a thing called insulin resistance. Okay, insulin resistance. So insulin is a hormone, okay, and it's a very important hormone when it comes to losing body fat. Really simply, insulin's job is to regulate our blood sugar levels, okay, and when insulin is high, fat burning is low. So if we want to lose body fat, we need to manage our insulin levels, okay? So insulin resistance comes into play because if you're insulin resistant, it means your body has to produce a lot of insulin to manage your blood sugar levels, okay? While other people are what's called insulin sensitive, that means they don't have to produce as much, okay? So really simple. A good analogy is coffee. Hands up if you drink coffee or tea, caffeinated drinks, right? If you haven't had a coffee for a whole month and then you have a coffee, then you will feel the effects of the caffeine straight away, right? Your brain will be like, wow. But if you have coffee every day, 4 or 5 cups or more, then 1 or 2 cups of coffee hardly makes a difference. Who knows what I'm talking about? So that's the difference between being sensitive to caffeine, you only need a little bit, and being resistant to caffeine when you need a lot of it, okay? The same with insulin. So if we've been eating a lot of carbohydrates, in particular sugar, but also just carbohydrates in general, then our blood sugar levels get elevated and then our body produces insulin. Now, if you eat those same foods every single day and eat lots of carbohydrate-based foods every single day, then our body needs to produce more and more insulin because it gets used to it, kind of like the coffee, okay? Now, In India, obviously, and in most parts of the world, to be honest, but even traditional Indian foods are quite high in carbohydrates, right? So, like all the breads and rice and all that kind of stuff, lots of carbohydrates. And in the past, that wasn't such a big deal because we were very active all the time. All right. We walk around, we do physical work, etc. And we also didn't drink things like soft drinks and other things, and we didn't have all these added sugars into our foods as well, right? But these days, who does physical, manual, hard work every day? Not many of us, right? Who sits behind the computer every day, right? Quite a few people. Okay. And we don't walk anywhere, we drive there, or we, catch a rickshaw, or whatever we do, right? So these days, we have more sugar and carbohydrates and less physical activity, which leads to insulin resistance. By the way, what do we call chronic insulin resistance? If someone's very resistant to it for a long period of time, it has a special word, starts with D and ends in diabetes. Does anyone know what that word is? Diabetes. Great. Mahu got it earlier. Okay. So insulin resistance, if untreated, leads to type 2 diabetes. Okay. And also insulin resistance leads us in later life to things like Alzheimer's and dementia and things like this. So they're starting to call those diseases type 3 diabetes. Okay, because they are believed to be caused by insulin resistance. So basically, if you want to be healthy, just remember, guys, we want to keep ourselves on mute. There's a couple unmuted there, just so that it doesn't get too noisy. If we want to be healthy, lose weight, have our brain function, and age well, okay, then we want to manage our insulin. So how do we manage our insulin? The first thing is we reduce sugars and we reduce carbohydrates. If you're drinking things like chai with heap of sugar in it, or coffee with sugar, or tea with sugar, those kind of things that you're doing all the time, they really add up and they really spike our blood sugars high and therefore our insulin. Okay, so we want to reduce sugars. And if your goal is to lose a bunch of body fat, you will also most likely need to reduce your carbohydrates in general. Okay. The leaner you get with more muscle mass, the more carbohydrates your body can tolerate. But if you've got a lot of body fat to lose and your goal is to lose like 10, 15, 20 kilos or something, and you want to lose that body fat, then you really need to limit the carbohydrates in general. Okay. And one question that's come through, can honey be replaced by sugar, or is it the same thing? Basically, it's the same thing. So honey is sugar, okay, with other stuff in it. It's probably slightly better than sugar, but from the sense of insulin, very, very similar. Okay, so what will happen is you just remove the sugar from things and your taste buds will change and you don't need it as much anymore. Very quickly, over a few days to a week, your taste buds will change. Okay. So the first thing, reduce sugar and reduce carbohydrates. The second thing to improve insulin sensitivity is to do resistance training. Okay. That means, it doesn't mean resisting training. It means doing weight training, okay? Lifting weights, doing your push-ups, your squats, all that kind of stuff that we do all the time. That's resistance training. It helps us build muscle. It helps our muscles be stronger, more efficient. And our insulin receptors, most of them live in our muscle fibers, okay? So the more healthy, lean muscle that we have on our body, the more sensitive to insulin we are. So you might know like someone who's a big bodybuilder and really muscly or whatever, and they seemingly can eat all these carbohydrates and not gain fat. That's because they'll be very sensitive to insulin. Okay. Now, the third thing that we can do to improve our insulin sensitivity is to supplement with omega-3 fish oil, or just to increase our fatty fish consumption in general. Okay, so eat more fish, or eat more fish and supplement with a quality omega-3 supplement. Okay, so omega-3 helps our cell walls be nice and healthy, and that's where our insulin receptors live. Okay, so healthy cells equal better insulin sensitivity. So hands up if I'm kind of making sense so far. Hopefully there's at least one little thing that you can take away already. Okay, reduce the sugar. Who would have known about that, right? We've been told that 1,000 times, but hopefully now you understand a little bit more about why. All right. Okay, guys, fantastic. So that's point number one, is insulin resistance. The second reason a lot of people find it difficult to lose body fat is stress. Okay. Someone's asked the question here, if we are vegetarian, we don't have fish, so what can be the alternative? Basically, there is no equal alternative. Okay, so when it comes to body composition and fat loss, it is a little bit trickier for vegetarians. I understand that, a lot of you guys might be, and that's fine, for different reasons. But, there's no vegetable fish oil, if that makes sense. Like, um, certain products can't be, or certain things in general can't be replicated by plants. Okay, so you will find a little bit more difficult. There's a few strategies here that may not be applicable to you, and you do have to be a bit more careful with your macronutrients, which we'll describe in a minute. But I also have a little hack for you. Okay, so if you're a vegetarian, I'll tell you a bit of a hack involving some BCAAs and essential aminos. Okay, I've just made a note there to remind myself. Okay, so the second reason, guys, is stress. Hands up if you've ever been stressed in your life before. Some of you are feeling stressed right now after that workout, right? Sonny worked you hard, got you all stressed out. Okay, so when our body or our mind is stressed, we produce a hormone called cortisol. Okay, cortisol. So really simply, when cortisol is high, fat burning is low. Okay, so who here's ever had a period of life where they were stressed and they gained body fat? You were stressed for like a month, 2, 3, 6, or whatever months, and you gained body fat over that time, right? That's because of this thing called cortisol. So we need to look at all the different types of stress in our body, okay, that can happen. There are the obvious things, right? Like mental stress, like work's really busy, my husband is annoying me, my wife's nagging me to do all the jobs around the house or whatever it is, okay? Maybe living together and not getting out and all that, you're getting stressed out and annoyed by people, or who turns on the TV, what can stress us out on the TV, starting with N and ending in U's, right? News on the TV, that can stress us out, especially these days with all the things happening around the place. Family challenges, all of these things, right, can be very stressful. So there are also a bunch of other things that can stress us out. So hands up again if you drink coffee or tea, okay, or alcohol, or all of the above. All right. All of those things stress our body out. So caffeine stresses our body out. If we have too much caffeine, our body's under stress. The reason why we feel more alert when we have caffeine is because it literally produces cortisol, which is a stress hormone, and we're supposed to be alert when we're stressed. The idea being that we can then avoid danger. Okay, that's how our brain works. So if we're constantly drinking coffee and tea all day, and then at night we drink alcohol, all of these things are producing cortisol and stress, and we end up with excess body fat. Now, a symptom of excess body fat as a result of high cortisol will be excess belly fat. Okay, so you've heard of like a beer belly, when your belly gets bigger than the rest of you. All right, that's a pretty good sign that cortisol has been elevated for a long time. Okay, so there are many ways we can improve it. Okay, but first, there's a few other ways or a few other reasons why cortisol will be high. Who's heard of food intolerances before? Food intolerance. Okay, so most people, if you have an intolerance to a food, you would know about it. You'll get very sick. But most people are sensitive to different foods. Okay. Many people, for example, are sensitive to gluten or dairy. Right. So if you have one of these things and you feel bloated or anything like that in the tummy, feel funny in the tummy, that's a good sign that you're insensitive. So if your body reacts to a certain food that way, it gets stressed out. Okay. And it produces more cortisol. Okay. Poor gut health will stress our body out. Lots and lots of different things that can stress our body. So there's a few things that we need to focus on. A lack of magnesium was very common. So here's an interesting thing. I read somewhere the other day that we are on average 100 times more stressed out than our grandparents' generation. Okay. Who would believe that? 100 times, right? Feeling pretty stressed? Because back in their day, right, life was pretty simple. They didn't have social media and emails and text messages and news blasting them all the time, advertising all the time, telling them they're not good enough and they need to buy this and that, etc., etc. Okay, does this make sense? Yeah. So that'll stress our body out. Okay. Um, we've got a couple of questions coming in the chat about coffee. Okay, so coffee's not the worst thing in the world, but there are a couple of things that you need to know about coffee. Okay, the first thing, two rules that I have about coffee. Okay, first rule, not on an empty stomach. Okay, so if you're having coffee as soon as you wake up, which let's face it, nearly everybody does it that way, right? It's not the best to do that for two reasons. One, coffee is harsh on the gut, on our gut health. Okay, so on an empty stomach, it's very harsh on the gut. Two is because on an empty stomach, it will spike our cortisol more than normal. Now, if you're waking up and you've got a headache until you have coffee, that's a good sign that you need to drink less of it. Okay, you're overdoing it a little bit. All right. Okay, so you can't use that as, but I have a headache until I have coffee. Well, we can't let that control the rest of your life. So we need to improve that. So the ideally you eat breakfast before you have coffee. Okay. And if that's not possible, or well, it's always possible, isn't it? But if you don't want to do that, then at least 500 mils of water before your coffee. Okay. So at least that way you're getting some hydration into your body, all right, before you drink the coffee. That one little simple thing will make a big difference. Now, the second rule about coffee, which is going to affect our one of our other reasons, reason number 4, sleep, is that coffee has an 8-hour half-life. What that means is if I want to go to bed at 10 p.m. and I have a coffee at 2 p.m., at 10 p.m., still half of that caffeine is going to be in my system. Okay. So the coffee rule is, or the caffeine rule, no caffeine after 8 hours before bedtime. Okay. So if bedtime's 10 p.m., no caffeine after 2 p.m. Okay. You can drink tea in the evening, but it has to be decaf. Anything after 2 p.m. is decaf. Okay. The way that I like to think about coffee is think of it as a bank loan. All right. If you take a loan from the energy bank, you've got to repay it at some point, right? With a little bit of interest. So whoever finds themselves just surviving the week because they're drinking coffee to survive the week, then they get to the weekend and they're exhausted. Who's ever found this, right? You get a day off to recharge and then do it all again. Okay, so it's very important. We can't live off bank loans, all right, because you have to repay them at some point. All right, so things with stress. Magnesium, okay, nearly every single person, if you actually got tested, you would find yourself deficient. Nearly 80% of people are deficient in magnesium. It's because we're more stressed than ever, and our food has less nutrition in it than ever due to farming and all of that, right? The way we do things. So almost certainly you need a magnesium supplement. Part of that is allows our body to deal with stress and allows our brain to deal with stress. So if you're tired but you can't sleep, if you're quick to anger, irritable, just generally anxious, all right, even if you have symptoms of depression and anxiety, these are often made worse by magnesium deficiency. All right, so supplementing with magnesium, reducing caffeine, reducing sugar, reducing alcohol, all of these things. Being kind to yourself, so scheduling time, do your workouts. Obviously, whoever here has worked out and then you feel kind of relaxed after the workout, hands up if you can relate to that, if you're relaxed after a workout. That's because your body burns up the cortisol, and that's why you kind of feel relaxed, and that's why it gets a little bit addictive, all right, and makes you feel good. Okay, someone's saying, what about tea? Tea is exactly the same as coffee, unless it's decaf. Okay. Which products contain magnesium? Literally magnesium. So you can get supplemental magnesium, which you should be able to find a decent brand on Amazon or something. I do believe we've set up a little store on Amazon with a few products that I've checked out in the past. So if we still have that somewhere, maybe Dali or Ahuti can post that in the comments. Just double check that there's a magnesium product in there. Otherwise, I'll look one up and make sure we put it in our store, guys, because there's a lot of rubbish magnesium products out there as well. Okay. Natural sources, pistachios are high in magnesium. Pink salt, okay, pink salt. The reason it's pink is because it has magnesium in it. All right, and plenty of other things, but you can Google that. Just Google what has magnesium in it, etc. Go from there, and you get a big list of foods. Okay, we've got to keep moving, or we'll run out of time. The next one, reason number 3 why you're not losing body fat, is your macronutrients are out of whack for your goals and for your body. So macronutrients simply means protein, fats, carbohydrates. Proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. Okay, so we can manipulate the ratios of these things to get different results in our body. But the thing is, everybody always wants to know, how much fat should I eat? How much proteins? How many carbs? There is no magic formula that works for everybody. And what works for you now may not work for you in 6 months' time. So these things do need to change. And that's where working with a good coach is very valuable. Okay. But here's the thing. Most people eat too many carbohydrates. Okay. As a general rule, most people do not eat enough protein, and most people do not get enough quality fats. Okay. So and I'm just speaking to the majority here because, nearly everyone we work with is looking for fat loss. Okay. So let's say you want to lose fat and you're currently eating quite a lot of carbohydrates and a bit of protein and a bit of fat. Okay. What we would do is we will reduce the amount of carbohydrates. We increase the amount of quality protein. Okay. So for example, if you're having some kind of meat and vegetable curry with rice and what would be one of the breads you have that with? What's it called again? Roti, right? Roti. I'm not an Indian cuisine expert, but so you've got a lot of carbs in there and you've got a little bit of protein. So what we would do is we have less rice and less roti, and we have more meat and more vegetables in the curry. Does this make sense? Like, that's one example of a simple change. What are those breakfast rice things that you guys have? What are they called again?
Idli, you're talking about this?
Idli. Yeah, idli. Okay.
Idli, poha,
Yeah. So let's say your traditional breakfast is idli and
Steamed food.
other things like.
poha,
Steamed food.
Okay.
Steamed food.
Yeah. Okay. You guys know what I'm talking about anyway. But basically, those kind of things that have a lot of carbohydrates. Let's say that's your typical breakfast, all right, and you want to lose body fat. We can swap that around for something like an omelet. You know, three or four eggs with a bunch of vegetables, etc. So you got high protein, quality fats, and vegetables in there. Okay, like simple changes. Okay, guys, that would be one example of changing the macronutrients. Now, another reason, similar on the same line, so not enough protein. One of the reasons why we need a certain amount of protein in each meal, by the way, so it's not just a daily amount, it's what you get in each meal that's really important, is because we need a certain amount of a particular amino acid to switch on a thing called muscle protein synthesis. And I don't want to get too complicated with the words, but basically to build muscle, you need a certain amount of a thing called leucine. Okay. And if we don't get that amount, we cannot actually build and repair our muscles. Think of it like the ignition key, turning the key in your car to turn the engine on. All right. You can have fuel in the car, but if you can't turn the ignition on, you can't use it. Okay. So this is where vegetarians and vegans can sometimes have trouble with building and maintaining muscle mass and recovering from workouts, is because we don't get enough leucine into our system. Okay, but there's a little trick that you can get around that. So one of the biggest problems with vegetarians have is many of their protein sources also very high in carbohydrates. Okay, so things like legumes and beans and things like that. A lot of vegetarians use a lot of those things to get their protein intake. But the problem is those things are also very high in carbs, and you're very unlikely to still get enough leucine from plant sources, because plant proteins are not the same quality as animal proteins and they're much lower in leucine. Okay. So to get around that, for a vegetarian or a vegan, with each meal, you simply would take one serving of a thing called an essential amino acid. Okay, so you'll often see it called EAA, essential amino acid. That will usually have a decent amount of leucine in it, amongst other things. Or your second option, which will be a little bit cheaper, is called a BCAA, branch chain amino acid. A little bit of that, like a serving of that with each meal. That's like turning the ignition switch on. Or your third option is you can actually find leucine on itself as a supplement. Okay. My preference is always to go to the essential amino acid if you're a vegetarian, especially if you're a vegan. And then the second best option would be the BCAA. Okay, I hope that kind of makes sense. Yeah, so someone's here saying sources of leucine, well, basically animal products or supplements. You will not get a lot of leucine in any plant thing. Okay. And Dali's just posted the link in the Amazon store there that we've set up a while ago. And I'm pretty sure from memory, we did put an essential amino acid in there. So basically, I went through and found what was available in India, because you haven't got all the same products that we have, and just checked them, found some good ones and put them in that store just to make it easy for you guys, so you don't have to go searching the internet and sending me pictures. Is this one good? Is this one good? etc., which gets very time consuming. Okay. So can you repeat what I said about vegans? Yeah. So vegans or vegetarians just have an essential amino acid, a serving of essential amino acid with each meal. Okay. So let's say you're having some beans and curry or whatever you're having, right? But it's all vegetarian. Then you would have a little drink of essential amino acids with that meal. All right. If you are eating eggs, that will be fine. Okay, as long as you get 3 eggs minimum in that meal, you will get enough protein, enough leucine to kick into gear there. All right, anything less than that, and you need, or of course, the other thing you can have is a vegan protein, okay, protein powder, or you can have a whey protein powder if you're a vegetarian. No stress. And those things are good for snacks and whatnot as well. However, you can also have like a protein shake with your meal to get your protein source in that meal. Okay. So anyway, that's the macronutrients one. Okay. Hopefully we're making sense. Remember to make sure you take notes, underline anything that you're going to need to go away and action, because at the end, you're going to sit down for 2 minutes and come up with an action plan, all the things that you need to do to improve your results. Okay. And keep posting those questions in the comments, guys, as they come up for you, so I can get to them. All right. Reason number 4, why you might be struggling to lose body fat is because you're not sleeping enough. Okay. So if you want to lose body fat, sleep more and sleep better. Okay. That means deeper. All right. So there's a few things we can do, but really, really simple. There's a few reasons why sleep affects our fat loss. It affects our hunger hormones, but more importantly, it affects our testosterone. Okay. So the higher our testosterone, basically testosterone helps us to build muscle and burn fat. Also helps us to feel good, have energy, recover from our workouts. All round, it's pretty good. Okay. But males will typically have higher testosterone than females, which is why males have more muscle and less body fat in general than females. Okay. Now, that being said, females still want to be maximizing testosterone levels. They'll just never get to the same peak as a man, okay, based on nature, okay? So the better we sleep and the longer we sleep, the more testosterone we produce, the more lower our cortisol will be on a daily basis, and the more fat we will burn. So I've seen people working very hard in the gym, being stressed out all the time from work and everything, working hard for months, not improving much. Then they go away on holidays for 2 weeks. They don't train. They don't watch what they eat. And then they come back and hop on the scanner and they've lost body fat. Okay. This is because their cortisol has dropped and their testosterone has gone up. Okay. So naturally, their body then is able to lose body fat and build muscle. Okay. Someone's asking me, I've heard that protein powders affect the kidneys in the long term. No, they do not, unless you have some kind of kidney issue. Okay, then you want to talk to your doctor. But for 99.99999% of people, no drama, no worries there. Okay, so to sleep more, sometimes you just need to go to bed earlier. All right, set a bedtime. Who here is guilty of staying up late watching TV or doing things that they know aren't really helping them improve their life? Anyone guilty of that ever? Yep, totally. So just don't do that. Set a bedtime. So for me, it's 9 p.m. I go to bed at 9 p.m. almost every day. I would say maybe there's 8 to 10 days a year where it's not 9 p.m. Okay. Because maybe there's a special occasion or something, but almost every single day, 9 p.m. is bedtime. Okay, and you get into a nice little routine there. The second thing, supplement with magnesium. If you have trouble sleeping, it's almost certain you're deficient in magnesium. Okay. Third thing is we need a bedtime routine. Okay, so a routine to help you unwind and get to sleep and get a good quality of sleep. That means avoiding the caffeine at least 8 hours in advance of bedtime. That means avoiding screens just before bed. Okay. So our team knows if they message me in the Indian afternoon, I'm never going to get back to them until the morning, because for me, that's nighttime, and I won't be looking at my phone before I go to bed, because then my brain gets working again and it's hard to sleep. Okay. Maybe it's having a bath at nighttime to relax. That's something I do almost every night now. And the other thing that I like is essential oils, oils that calm the system, and you can breathe them in, for a few minutes, and it helps relax everything and helps you unwind. Okay. So having a nighttime ritual will actually help you lose fat. Okay. So that's really, really important. Okay, so Shoaib's just putting a thing here. Lose belly fat ASAP, lost in a short time. Cool. So if we're talking belly fat, we're talking cortisol. So that means improve your sleep, improve your stress. Okay. Things I would be doing is, you can avoid anything that affects your tummy, like gives you bloating or anything that's causing stress. You want to do some meditation, those kind of things. Sleeping better, relaxing, avoiding stressful situations, avoiding alcohol, sugar, caffeine, etc. If the problem is loose skin, that's different. Okay, so that's going to take time. And there is an interesting Chinese herb called gochukola. Gochukola. Okay, I'm going to type it in here. I might get the spelling wrong, but it's something like that. Okay, I just posted that. Oh no, sorry, I posted that to a single person, so I've got to click everyone here. Okay, just posting this in the. Now, the thing about it, don't expect it to work overnight. It can take months to work, but it takes a long time to build up in our system, and then all of a sudden it will start working and tightening up the skin. Okay, so check that out. I'm sure you can find it on Amazon. Gochukola if your issue is loose skin. Someone here is saying, I hardly sleep for 2 hours. That means you're shortening your life, quite frankly. So you want to fix that up. Okay. It's going to be very hard for you to achieve your fitness goals because your body can't recover and repair itself. But B, the same thing for the brain. Okay. So if you want to live a long, healthy, happy life, you need to prioritize your sleep. And if you're one of these people like I used to be, saying, I haven't got time to sleep, or, I'm going to sleep less and work more and do all these things, then it's actually just because we don't understand how important it is. Okay. It would be like saying, I haven't got time to stop my car and fuel it up because I'm too busy. What's going to happen eventually? Your car's going to run out of petrol and you can't go anywhere. You're going to be stopped. Okay. Same thing with our sleep. Okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, okay. I'll get to these questions later. I want to just keep rocking through. So sleep's done. Now, thing number 5. Let me have some water. Which, by the way, if you're not drinking enough water, you won't be optimal either. Okay, dehydration will also slow down our fat loss and our performance. Thing number 5 is training poorly or training not hard enough. Okay, so many times I've sat with people and they've been on a plateau and we've spoken and they seem to be doing everything right. And then we set a little challenge to focus on working harder in each workout by 10%. Basically, it's just a little push. And then all of a sudden they start achieving results. They get sore, which they haven't been in a while. They start improving. They get fitter, they get stronger, they start losing body fat. Because our body adapts to whatever we throw at it. What tends to happen when people start exercising is their body goes through an adaptation phase, and then they kind of get used to it and they start cruising along. Okay. Sometimes we either need to change up our style of training, or more likely just actually start working harder, train harder, focus on more intensity. Okay. Because if we're not challenging our body, it doesn't have to respond. Okay. We need to have a stimulus. Yeah. How much water to drink daily? If you're around 60 kilos, minimum 2 liters. If you're around 75 kilos, minimum 2.5 liters. If you're around 90 kilos or more, minimum 3 liters. of non-workout water. That means what you drink during a workout does not count. And any caffeinated drinks also do not count. Okay. Next question. My weight has come down 5 or 6 kilos. Now I'm stuck at 74 kilos. What to do? The answer to that is something different. Okay. So, like I said, if you've been training consistently, then train harder. Just focus on working harder. Sometimes the answer is a little bit more, depending, because it's difficult depending on, I don't know enough information about you and what you're currently doing, but these are just the general rules. And change your nutrition. Okay. So if you're eating eggs for breakfast every day, don't eat eggs for breakfast for the next 3 weeks. Eat something different. If you're eating lots of carbs, go low carb for a period of time. Okay. If you're not sleeping well, focus on sleeping more. Basically, you've got to change something. If we keep doing the same thing, we cannot expect a different result. So what's going to work best for me oftentimes will be what you're not currently doing. All right. Something completely different to what you're currently doing. All right. So change your food, increase the intensity of your exercise, increase the frequency of your exercise, change the time of your exercise. Lots of different things that can spice up our system. Okay. Change your protein sources. If you always eat chicken every day, stop eating chicken for a few weeks, eat different things, and you'll usually find your body will respond quickly. There's a question about if you're getting like acne or whatever. Often that can be caused by food sensitivities. All right. So you want to just be looking at what you're eating, but the basics would be drink more water, get rid of any sugar, processed foods, etc., etc. And if there's anything that makes you feel funny, like you eat dairy and then your tummy feels funny, avoid that, cut it out. There'll often be one food that's causing a sensitivity, which causes different people to react in different ways. Okay. So you can do what's called an elimination diet. That means you kind of get rid of a lot of different things, start really basic, and then you can add certain things back in to see what might be causing the issue. That's a bit more of a complicated thing. Now, I've kind of answered the next one. So number six reason why you might not be losing fat is same training and nutrition. And I kind of answered this one when helping somebody with the question of they're stuck. Okay, so one of the reasons why most people get stuck is because your body literally is designed to adapt to whatever you throw at it, whatever stimulus you throw at your body. Its job is to adapt. All right. So if you're losing body fat, your body knows and your brain knows, very smart, that you can't keep losing body fat like that at that rate forever, or you'll die. And in your brain's world, the body fat is a safety mechanism for if you are starving one time and you need it, right? So it doesn't want to let it go easily. So you've got to change something to get a result, okay? Keep doing whatever you're doing while it's working, but once it stops working, we need to change it. So a lot of the time, people will say, I'm not improving. And then I'll say, okay, cool. Can you do this? Can you take the sugar out of your coffee? Oh, no, I can't do that. I hate my coffee. Okay, well then that's fine, but you can't expect a different result if you don't do something different. Okay? I hope that makes sense. All right. And number 7, before I answer any more questions and we come up with our action plan, is consistency, guys. Consistency. So one of the first things we do when someone's not getting results is we get them to keep a food diary. Okay. What are you eating every single day? If you do that for a week, and what I've noticed over many years of seeing lots and lots of food diaries, maybe thousands of food diaries, is that people are often good for a while, but then they undo all their hard work in a couple of days. Now, if you worked really hard for 6 months saving money, let's say for 6 months you saved whatever, 10,000 rupees a month for 6 months. You've saved up 60,000 rupees. and then you go on a shopping spree for 1 week and spend 60,000 rupees. How many rupees have you got left? Right? 0. Okay, so you've undone all the hard work of your 6 months by a 1 week shopping spree. A lot of people do the same thing, but we tend to do things good for 5 or 6 days, Monday to Friday or Monday to Saturday. And then on the weekend, we go on a shopping spree, all right, or an eating spree, you might say. So we drink alcohol, we eat sugar, we eat ice cream, blah, 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 all these kinds of things, right? And we undo all that hard work that we did. So think of it like that. Usually what I find is when we tighten up people's weekends and we focus on being consistent 7 days a week for a period of time, then you start progressing quite quickly and quite rapidly. Here's the thing to remember. It is easier to maintain than it is to attain. Okay? So a lot of people, they think, oh, I don't want to have to not eat ice cream for the rest of my life. So what I'm trying to say is you don't have to do that for the rest of your life. You need to do that until you get to your goal. And then you can relax a little bit and find a happy medium. Okay? So for example, most weekends I will not be very strict on what I eat. And for me, that's okay because I'm pretty much where I want to be, and I can tighten up and lose a couple of percent if I want to, if I go a little bit too far one way. But if I had 20 kilos to lose, I would need to be more strict until I got to where I want to be. Then I can relax a little bit, keep training, keep eating well 90% of the time, but I can enjoy myself on the weekends and, treat myself if I want to. Does this make sense? Okay, cool. Okay, awesome, guys. So feel free to pop any questions through and I will get to them. I'm still got 12 minutes here before I've got to run away. So Shoaib, awesome. Shoaib just put a comment, show some appreciation. Awesome. Great to hear, Shoaib. Great to hear your awesome results. I've seen your photos popping up on Facebook and I've spoken about you with the guys. So that's really great, mate. Good to see.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. And Abhijit, our man from Mumbai. I believe from Mumbai, Abhijit. Maybe I've got that wrong. Hope not. Gone from double XL to a medium at age 40. 40 is the new 30, so you're still young. That's good. On fire. Good job. And Anjali asked, does a calcium supplement contribute to weight gain? Almost certainly not, unless there's something weird in there that your body's reacting to, but almost certainly not. No worries about that. So wrapping everything up, guys, here's my favorite principle. I like to live by principles because it just simplifies everything. But the principle that's my most favorite is brilliant at the basics. Okay, so you will see if you talk to any of our team, they'll tell you I've probably said this 1,000 times to them. Brilliant at the basics. There's nothing complicated. Show up to your workouts, work really, really hard, drink lots of water, sleep well, quality proteins in every meal. Don't go too crazy on the weekends. Like, these are all simple things, right? Talk to your coach if you get stuck and we'll be able to help you change something up. But there's nothing complicated, but that doesn't make it easy. It just makes it simple. Okay. But I always use cricket analogies because both Australia and India, everyone knows about cricket, right? So even though Australia is the best in the world, India is pretty good though, right? You guys agree? Okay, so there's nothing too complicated in cricket either, right? If you think about the best bowlers, what makes them the best? They're just consistent, all right? So there'll be thousands of bowlers who can also bowl a good ball, but not 6 balls and over good, right? The best batsmen or batters in the world, what makes them great is they just hit the cover drive or whatever shot a little bit better than everyone else and more consistently. They're brilliant at the basics. If you go and watch Virat Kohli in the nets, I bet he's not doing anything crazy. He's just hammering his basics, getting better and better at the basic things every single day, right? It's the same with our lives, brilliant at the basics. So even though we know sleep is important, how many of us have not been sleeping really well or optimally or as best as we could? Okay. Even though we know exercise is important, or we shouldn't drink too much coffee, or we need to drink more water, sometimes we need to be reminded more than we need to be taught something new. Okay. So in our what we're going to do right now, guys, is you're going to take your pen and you're going to write down 3 things that you're going to change as a result of this whatever you want to call it, workshop. 3 things that you're going to do differently. Okay, maybe it's bedtime earlier, maybe it's increased protein, decreased carbs, whatever it is, right? I want to see your 3 things. And if you could please post your 3 things into the chat box. Any questions, post them into the chat box as well. Shoaib asks, is 7 hours sleep enough? It depends. Generally speaking, everybody is a little bit different, but between 7 and 9. So I find any less than 9 and I'm not great for me personally, but a lot of people can get away with less. So if you wake up feeling awesome after 7 hours, then yes. If you wake up tired and thinking, I wish I had another hour, then it's probably not. Okay. That makes sense? Really how you feel. And a lot of it comes down to how deep you sleep as well. So you might find 7 hours is not great at the moment, but then you reduce sugar, you increase magnesium, and all of a sudden 7 hours you're getting better quality and you feel really good. So it does require a little bit of experimentation. Okay, cool. So here we go. We've got Anjali says more water, less tea, more protein. Fantastic. Let's get a little bit more specific. So for example, all right, now I've lost that. Yeah, for example, minimum 2.5 liters of water, no tea after 2 p.m., things like that. Let's be as specific as possible. Sonia says, no sugar, decrease carbs, not go too crazy on the weekends. Yeah, yeah, good one. Farhan asked, what if I sleep more than 9 or 10 hours? It depends. Okay, there could be a good reason for it, like you're super active during the day or something like that, or there's likely some deficiency somewhere. For example, try supplementing with a good magnesium and you might get a better quality of sleep and you don't need as much. Some people just need more sleep. So LeBron James, the basketball player, he says that he sleeps around 13 hours a day. Obviously, he's very active and, training all the time as well. And, that's part of his job is recovering, but that's just an example. Okay, and then we've got Manish says, focus on quality sleep, work on belly fat, increase protein. So to me, work on belly fat means like decrease the stresses. It could mean you're meditating or relaxing more or avoiding alcohol and coffee, those kind of things. Okay, Payal says, more sleep, more protein, less junk food. Cool. Lovey says, cut on sugars and drinks. Okay, reduce on the heavy carb meals. Yep. And better sleep and more consistent on decisions. Good. Paris says, more water, less carbs, less alcohol. Cool. Manohar says, reduce caffeine, sleep 8 hours, BCAA and EAA intake with meals. Sanket says, wow, guys, thanks for all these messages, by the way. I'm trying to get through them all. Sanket says, sleep more, 2.5 liters of water, protein in the diet. Yawa says, more sleep, reduce carbs, start fish oil. Fantastic, guys. Now there's another 15 messages there, basically all saying the same thing. So that's a good, it shows us brilliant at the basics, right? Okay. So that's really, really good stuff. So I'm just scanning through here to see if we have any specific questions. It looks like it looks like there aren't any questions, guys, but if you do have a specific question, feel free to sing out with that now. I'll just put my screen on gallery. Does anyone have any more questions, team? Hopefully we all learned something. Hands up if you learned something today. Fantastic. We do have another question. Two more questions. Okay. Farhan says, any tips to increase stamina? Absolutely. Train more. Now, it depends what you mean by stamina. If you mean like training stamina, like that's just going to come with time and practice and patience, as in do more training and you will obviously increase your training stamina. If you mean like you're running out of energy during the day, that's going to be a culmination of all the things that we've spoken about, okay, today. So basically you'll find, your ability to stay alert and switched on and maintain your energy throughout the day will come as your general health improves, and especially as your insulin sensitivity improves. So if you're crashing, after meals and you're running out of energy in the afternoons, that kind of thing, it's a good indicator that we are not getting, our blood sugar levels aren't stable. So for many people in that situation, more protein, more fats, quality salt can also be good. So for some people, if you're low in salt, you will be low in energy. And that doesn't mean eat more potato chips. It means get some good quality sea salt, or pink salt is the best, and salt your foods every day. And you might find an increase in your energy there as well. So it does depend a little bit on your exact definition of stamina. Okay. Next question. Apana asks, which time in the day is perfect for weight training? Good question. Perfect is subjective, but it's either, for most people, either mid-morning or mid-afternoon is perfect. However, most people have work and kids and all these other things. So you just got to do what fits in with your life. Okay. But if you think of it, basically everyone's testosterone will naturally peak at different times. When are you the most energetic? All right. That's the best time for you to train, if training is your goal. For me, however, my brain's most energetic in the morning. My energy's best. That's where I actually do like creative work, because that's more important. And then I'll train later, even though it's not my peak time, because I want my peak time for my brain. Okay, so depends on your priorities in life. How to go about gotcha cola? Jump on the internet and find somewhere that supplies it in India. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. Here's a good question. So for women, menopause, that can be a tricky stage with fat loss and everything. So my advice there is nothing kind of fancy. Of course, there'll be doctors and other people specializing in this who would know far more than me. But what I've found, no matter what's going on in your life, you'll have other people who are on antidepressants and medications that slow down the metabolism throughout our hormones. What can often happen with those people is we forget to be brilliant at the basics, all right? Because our hormones are out of whack, we crave certain foods and we get a little bit off track and we don't recover well. You're going to have more challenges than the average person. However, we just want to bring it back to basics. What can we do better? Okay, what can we do better? Of course, it's going to be harder than with other people, okay? But there's still always going to be things that we can do, okay? But in saying that, I'm no expert on that topic, I must say. Okay, Abhijit asks, from what age can kids do weight training? Really any age, Abhijit. It just make sure they do it properly. It's not going to affect height. I've been lifting weights since I was probably 10 years old, something like that. From like, we used to do a lot of competitive swimming and that kind of thing, and they have us lifting weights. I'm just as tall as my brother, so I don't think it affected my height. I'm 184, taller than my dad, and so no, it won't affect height growth. That's been dispelled a long time ago. Okay, cool. Someone says we should create something for kids. We could do that, but there's lots of things that we could do, and we can't do them all, unfortunately. There's only 24 hours a day. What's the best pre and post workout meal? Pre-workout meal, you just want to make sure you're not elevating your insulin. That means the worst thing you can do is have sugar, fruit, and other things like that. Not good pre-workout. Okay, so protein, fats-based meal, some complex carbohydrates if you are lean and you can tolerate carbohydrates. And post-workout depends a little bit on the individual and the goal, but basically protein powder is ideal. Put a bit of glutamine in there to speed up your recovery, and you'll notice a big difference with glutamine in your protein shake. How to not be lazy? That's a great question. How to not be lazy? I love it. All right. Well, here's the thing. Motivation comes from having a motive, which means a reason why. So you need to be clear on your reasons why something is important. All right. And I like to, if you're struggling with that, put it on your bathroom mirror so you see it every day. Okay. So it's like, why is doing this important? The other thing would be, instead of having a goal, you can change your thinking to having a standard. Okay. So for example, people always say, oh, but I don't have any motivation to train. Well, at what point in your life did you decide that you require motivation to train? Why can't you just train even if you don't have motivation? Do you think Virat Kohli has motivation every day to spend 3 hours in the nets? Right? Don't you think he might just say, oh, I don't feel like it today? But my bet is, whether he's motivated or not, he shows up and he does the work. And that's why he's very good. That's why only Steve Smith is better than Virat Kohli. Okay? Does that make sense? Everyone agree? Steve Smith's the best? Yep. Great. All right, just kidding, guys. All right. Fresh fruit intake is good if you can tolerate carbs. If you're trying to lose a bunch of body fat, you should not be eating a lot of fruit because it is high in sugar. So if your goal is to lose body fat, reduce fruit intake. Okay. If you are going to have it, you want to have it with a meal, not as a snack by itself. Because when you have it by itself, your insulin will go up. Bear, bring him over here. My baby is coming here. He's complaining. And I think we're almost finished. I'll introduce you to Rocco over here. You can see him. Can everyone see him? This is Rocco. He'll answer the last couple of questions for you guys. Does cycling do anything good or do anything to your body? Well, pretty similar to most exercise. You know, exercise is always going to be good. Don't you think? You don't know about cycling yet. So, but yeah, cycling, nothing wrong with it, of course. If your goal is fat loss, then certainly high intensity exercise is going to be best. Yes, that's right. Yeah. Okay. All right, guys. So I think that's it. Time for me to go and look after this guy now. So thanks so much, everybody, for joining us today. It's been a real pleasure. Hey, mate, I'm nearly finished. Listen up. Don't make too much noise. Okay. So that's it from us. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, sir. Bye.
Thanks, Jake. Bye bye.
Guys, bye-bye.